ladies and gentlemen, now hosting the RizzoCast, put your hands together for Steven Risotto!
What is going on, everybody, and welcome. This is episode number 122 of RizzoCast. I am Steven Risotto, and today we are joined by a very special guest. She is a reporter and producer for MLB.com and a part of the batch that is considered to be the next batch of rising stars in the baseball and sports media landscape. It is Sonja Chen, and Sonja joins the show. Sonja, how you doing? Welcome.
Hi, thanks so much for having me, Steven.
It is such a pleasure, and we have shared a press box together multiple times, and I think multiple times I did not even know it was you until like later on in the season, and we have never shared a clubhouse together. So like we've kind of like crossed paths, but like not fully. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, it's like the circles that, they're kind of near each other, but they don't like cross yet. That's kind of how I describe it.
Yeah, it's like the Venn diagram, but like we're on opposite sides right now. But next year we'll be back. We'll be ready to go. In terms of this week, it's Thanksgiving. It's Thanksgiving week, and I think this episode probably would be out. Thanksgiving probably already happened, but I'll ask anyways. What is the plans with the family? What's the plans with the food? I asked a few people this already. What is the vibe for the Thanksgiving holiday?
Well, this is actually kind of an unusual Thanksgiving for my family because I'm home, but my parents are actually out of the country. They're in Taiwan, which is where I just was. Kind of weird situation. So normally we do, the whole thing, like we usually host. We'll do like a turkey and then, sides. But I think this year, my parents are getting back to the Bay Area on Friday. So I think we're gonna do our kind of like big dinner on Sunday, just a little smaller, maybe more of an like Advent thing. So it'll still be fun, just like off by a few days. But I mean, Thanksgiving's on a different day every year, usually, anyway. So it's kind of like the same, but different.
Yeah, exactly. So that should be fun. How is Taiwan? I mean, that's awesome that you went there, and it's definitely an area that I actually know a few people that went to Taiwan and have gone to some of those Asian countries over there. What is like the vibe? Because I saw a picture of you outside of a baseball stadium. So like, I think it's hilarious that you go to a different country and automatically find a baseball field. So it's pretty funny.
Oh yeah, it was definitely one of the goals. I mean, I was there with my dad, and we actually had tickets to one of the CPBL games. So that's the league there, and they're in the middle of their playoffs, the Taiwan series. So we had we had tickets to game 5, and then the team that eventually won, the brothers, they swept in 4. So just got there like a day too late, which was a bummer. But yeah, I still managed to find my way to a baseball stadium because I was like, I feel like I need something. Since I came here and originally thought I was going to get to see a little extra November baseball. But I mean, Taiwan's amazing because my dad's Taiwanese. I've been there a couple of times before, except the last time was like 11 years ago. So it's changed a lot, and it's always nice to be back and like just see how like things have developed.
How long is that flight?
Oh, it's 14 hours going from San Francisco to Taipei, like direct. On the way back, it's 11, which is still a very long time. I won't lie. So
Gosh, like what do you do on like long flights? Because I have never been on a flight more than maybe just a few hours because I've not gone east of like Nebraska. So, I mean, like what does one do on a flight that long? I mean, TV can only get you so far, reading can only get you so far. Maybe you sleep a little bit. I don't know.
yeah, on the way there, I definitely tried to sleep because it left here at like midnight, and then it got to Taipei at like 6 a.m. And so I was like, okay, I need enough energy, hopefully, like for the whole day. So I got a bit of sleep, and then most of the time though on both of them, I spent a lot of it like reading. So mostly like fiction because that's like when I'm reading for like fun, I guess that's what I gravitate toward. But watched a little movies, just tried to like pass the time as, 14 hours is a really long time, but it eventually went by. So
Yeah, well, I got to start traveling. I got to start getting myself cultured. Jesus. So let's get into kind of your career, your baseball career. You work for MLB.com. You're a reporter and producer, and you cover games here in the Bay Area that maybe visiting team beat writers can't attend, or maybe the home team beat writers are unable to get to. What was the process and I guess getting that job and now kind of your first season doing it? How did that go?
sure. So I mean, kind of the main way that I got the job was I had interned with MLB last summer. So I knew, the people in the content department already. So I had kind of some of those connections, and then I knew like based on that internship that they're going to consider me for a role like this summer. And I guess kind of going a step back into how I got that internship, kind of got my foot in the door at all, was I had a great sports journalism professor at Boston University, Sherrod Blakely, and he kind of connected me with well, he actually encouraged me to apply for a job opening um like about a year and a half ago. That was kind of like the job that I have right now, which at the time totally wasn't qualified for, I'm sure. But it was one of those things where I apply and then you stay in the system. They still consider you for like things later on, which is how I got the internship, which was how I got here.
That's really cool. And like I mean, walking into the ballpark the first time, because I know for me it was like very intimidating, and I was a lot young. I was 19, so it was really intimidating. But for you, walking into the ballpark, the Coliseum, Oracle Park, whatever it was, I mean, was there like butterflies walking through those gates?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, because I mean, probably very similar thing for you, but it's like these are the ballparks that I came to as a kid. I have a lot of great memories. Mainly at the Coliseum because I watch more games on this side of the bay, but still between the two of them, I'm like I've been here in the stands. I've seen some really incredible moments. It's like here I am. I'm on the field. There's just something kind of magical about like being down there, and I never thought I would love watching teams warm up and take grounders so much, but but it just feels kind of special.
Yeah, it's like like when they bring out the fungos before the game. Um, it's like it's music. Like I don't know what it is. It's like weird music, and that kind of leads me into my next question here. What is it? Because I know you've covered other sports and you've covered other things, not just sports, in your career, your journalism career, your student journalism career. What is it about baseball that kind of like sticks out? Because I know for a lot of your writers, I always hear the term that it's like very poetic to them. And like it seems that way to me too. So what is it about baseball that separates covering it from maybe another sport?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that for me it's almost hard to explain. I think I have that kind of connection to baseball more than some other sports just from growing up. Like it was what I watched, it was what I cared about. When I was younger, I probably knew like at least a general idea of what the A's were doing, like before I got like really into it. I at least knew that. If you had asked me about like the Warriors or the Sharks and the Niners, I would have had no idea. Um, so there's kind of part of that, but then I don't know, just something about the game. I like the pace of it, which I'm sure some people disagree with that, the pace of play or whatever, and people think it's too long and too little action, but I don't know. I think I like that there's a lot of just a lot of narratives in it. There's a lot of kind of individuality in some aspects, like it's ultimately a team game, but then there's really a lot of room for people to shine in moments. And I'm not saying that's like not true of other sports too. It's just for whatever reason, I really strongly feel that like when I'm covering baseball versus when I'm covering like some other sports.
Yeah, there's like the role player that could like come off the bench and hit like a walk-off single or something, and he's got like this cool backstory where he was like, you know, you know, a former player's little brother or something. I don't know. It's baseball. There's so many like connections that I like, and like Tim Kirkchin was always somebody that I would read, and he would break down like, I'm trying to do my Tim Kirkchin voice here. He would be like, he's the first player, and Aaron Judge is the first player in history whose first names start with an AA and had a 280 batting average in a season. So like stuff like that. Like there's so many like stats to go around here. By the way, speaking of Aaron Judge, where is Aaron Judge going? I mean, that's out of the blue, but I'm gonna put you
I
on the spot.
know. Yeah, it's see, I feel like the free agent signings, that's another thing where I'm like, I have no clue. I think if I had to like put money on it, I would say he's going back to the Yankees. That's just my instinct. It's really hard to picture him in another uniform, but like I don't know. I mean, I could see the Giants, making a play. There's something about your childhood team or whatever. And side note is that it's really funny saying that like he's like from the Bay Area when Lyndon's like what 100 miles away.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. Yes.
I'm like, no, he's not. But
Yeah, I just talked to I had the batting stance guy on last, and I literally said the exact words. Because he's from Danville. Gar Rhinus, he's from Danville, went to Monte Vista High School, and I asked him, I was like, when you hear people say like Aaron Judge, he's gonna come back home to the Bay Area, and you're from Linden, and you're thinking like, and you're from Danville, and you're thinking like, wait a minute, I know where Linden is. And the Bay Area is not Linden. Like, no, it's not. I can't believe that that's a thing. And like, there's people saying, oh, he's going to take a hometown discount. Discount what? He just bet on himself, and he went out and hit 62 homers and had like one of the best offensive years in American League history. And he's going to take a hometown discount to come to the Giants, who have like nobody around him, So I don't know. The Linden thing does throw me off a little bit.
oh yeah, and even a hometown discount for Aaron Judge is still going to be steep. So
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
yeah.
Hometown discount. What is a hometown discount for a guy that just hit 62 home runs? I mean, what do we Twitter is how do you do, because I feel like you deal with Twitter way better than I do, because I see stuff and like sometimes I can't even let it pass and I go, I have to respond, and I have very bad impulse control on Twitter. So how do you keep like your Twitter, and this is like legitimately me asking for advice to you, how do you keep your Twitter just like sane and like, because it's a tool now that besides the fact that it may be dying or it may not be dying, but take all that aside, but it is a tool that like media people have to use to kind of get their name out there a little bit. So how do you use it to kind of your advantage and still be sane on Twitter?
For sure. I mean, I think that's something that I'm still very much learning because I would say for the most part, I don't like, I mean, I think it's a great tool, but do I love using Twitter? Usually I would say no, which is why I've mostly been pretty like, quiet when I'm not like covering games or anything like that. So I would say I pretty much just use it like when I have to, which like I think that works for the sanity, but for like growing an audience, it's definitely better to be a little more like consistent with what you're putting out there. So, I mean, that's probably something I just have to like, bite the bullet and do at some point. Just get a little more consistent. I mean, it would be different, I guess, if I was actively covering a team right now and like things were happening with like my team. But the sanity part with being more active, I guess I'll have to figure that out. I think I'm a person where even if I see something that I'm like, oh, this is just like, why are you saying this? This is dumb. I can't ignore that. That might just be my personality.
Yeah. And the Twitter circle is like the best thing that has ever happened to me, in my like it's like my top 5 like most proud moments. Like probably fourth, number 3 or number 4 is like Twitter circle happening. So that's probably it right there. We'll kind of, I guess we'll go back to reporting and writing. A big part of reporting is asking the right question. And, there's so many like beat writers around all the time, and they're all trying to get information, right? And I've come to learn that, like, the top people are going to chime in first. And then, maybe if I have something to add in afterwards, maybe I'll say it. But what is kind of your way of trying to figure out the right question to ask, maybe a manager or a player, maybe something that you could get more insight from them, opposed to a question of, oh, you went 3 for 4 today. What were you feeling at the plate? So kind of like a creative way to mask a question.
Yeah, I think the way that I kind of try to look at it is take things, a little more big picture. So, try to like, I don't know, fill in all the gaps. If you kind of imagine like I don't know, you're like putting together like a tapestry, and each question is like slowly by little, giving you a little more. And you just want to try to get the most complete like picture that you can, is kind of how I see it. And I think like one of the good ways to do that is asking some of the questions that get at not just what happened in the game, but maybe tapping into some of the the mental aspect of it, or off field. And hopefully not in a way where it's just like oh, how do you feel when blah 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 question, because most of the time that's not great. But yeah, exactly, that's like journalism school 101, right?
Yeah.
But trying to like
home,
get a little something.
yeah, after the home run derby, I remember Buster Olney talking to, who won it? Was it Julio Rodriguez that won? I think it was Julio Rodriguez. He was talking to Julio Rodriguez, who won the home run derby, and he was like, Julio, you just won the home run derby. How do you feel? It's like, what is he supposed to feel? Like, is he supposed
Yeah.
to? Yeah, no, I'm pissed. Yeah, no. So I don't understand it, but I think there's a time, and maybe TV is the time and place for the how do you feel question. Especially it's immediate reaction, but for journalism, it's like such a bland question. And for you, has there been like a man? Because I know visiting teams come in. Sometimes you cover the A's, sometimes you cover the Giants. Is there a manager in baseball that is just such a good interview, really good with his time? Just seems like a really down to earth person and a good baseball man too.
Yeah, I mean, I would say a lot of the managers, I think I had very positive experiences across the board, which is a great thing. And it also kind of makes sense, since I would have most of them for like one series at a time. But I think my favorite so far would have to be Bud Black for the Rockies. Like, he's just a great dude. That's like the best way to put it. He very knowledgeable, has been around the game for a while, but then he's also just a very like good person. And he would like remember my name, which is probably kind of a low bar, but like from the first series that I covered the Rockies, which was in June, to my last one, which was in September, he kind of like remembered who I was, and we were able to like chat and like catch up at some point, which that's something that I feel is kind of rare, to be like so personable, to where even kind of this random reporter that you see in the city once, you still remember. And that could also have to do with there's not kind of a smaller group for like Rockies media, and like I was like the only like print reporter there for them. But yeah, he's been one of my favorites to cover, but there's a lot of good ones out there.
So when you get like a message, saying that, oh, you got to cover the game, you got to cover this weekend series, is that like a month in advance? Because do you get time to prepare for this, or is it just like last minute, our beat writer can't travel, Sonja, can you fill in? So like, what is the process to like, because hopefully you're prepared like enough, and I know you do a lot of preparation before these games, and you check to see how these teams are doing. So take me through kind of your, the rigorous preparation that goes into kind of covering a big league team, but only for a few days.
Sure. Yeah. So we usually got our schedule like far enough in advance where even if it wasn't quite set in stone, like I'd say usually the month ahead, I had generally a pretty good idea of like what I was doing. But then, yeah, it would maybe reach a little farther into the future too. So I could at least get things on my radar, like put it on the calendar, like, okay, we can start to, like, I know the general lineup of how the season's going to look. But then, I would kind of try to take things like a couple teams at a time. Like you don't want to overload too much and like just spread your like attention too far. So I would normally kind of look at the next two teams I had ahead of me at any given time and try to follow up with how they were doing. Like turn on notifications like on Twitter for the teams and on like various news outlets just to like at the very least like see the headlines. And then for the team that I had next up, that's the one where I would be kind of always like reading the stories and then right before I'd try to make sure that I'd kind of read everything recent like on our club sites, I guess. So like if I was going to cover like the Diamondbacks, which I think that was the last team I covered, which is why it's coming to mind. I'd make sure that I read through like at least the last couple days, like in addition to at least like being aware of, some of the other stuff. And we would also get like a handoff email from the beat reporters, which that was often really helpful, where they would say, hey, look out for these things. And I would kind of use that to make some like notes ahead of time.
Yeah, that does seem very helpful. That's cool that they do that. And
Yeah.
one thing that I saw in your Twitter bio that we have to expand more about, figure skating. I mean, this is something that like is so interesting because we see it like in the Olympics and stuff, but I guess I have never seen anybody like figure skate outside of the Olympics or outside of like a performance or whatnot. So like, how did you kind of get into figure skating, and why do you say that you're washed up at it? Because like, I feel like, once you have something, and you're still pretty young. I mean, I'm sure you could put on the figure skates now and do a pretty good job. But I guess to start, how did you get into figure skating? Because that's pretty cool.
Sure. Yeah, it's always kind of weird being from California and skate, even though I guess a lot of
Maybe
kind
that's
of
it. Yeah,
yeah,
California.
right. I guess a lot of skaters come from California. But I think like my mom just like put me in lessons at some point and I liked it. So I started I think when I was 4 and just kind of kept going. Dublin, Iceland, if you've ever, I don't know why you would have been there, but
No.
yeah, it's I can't really say it's a great rink, but it's the rink that I grew up skating at. So I just kind of did that, very much lower than like Olympic level, never. But kind of like recreationally, and then my main thing was synchronized skating, so that's probably even more off the radar than like regular like individuals or pairs or ice dance. So that's when you have like 16 people and you're all kind of, I mean, I guess the parallel that people draw is like synchronized swimming, and I'm sure that they're quite different, but I guess similar idea for like an artistic sport. There's a lot of like formations and like the team aspect. Yeah, and as for being washed up, I am retired after my last collegiate season. So that's I don't know, just kind of joking. I'm sure I could skate. Like I'll go every now and then just to, make sure I can still do it. But
Yeah, washed up. And I think I had washed up or still have washed up in my bio too, because I pitched in high school and I'm like what almost 3 years removed. I graduated in 2020 and the COVID season kind of the COVID virus kind of shut down my senior season and I think I got in like 5 games or something, but I've tried to throw since. I've done like a few like mini games with people and it just it's bad. Like I feel so like unflexible and it just doesn't go well at all. Um I saw you had a byline a few weeks ago and you're covering some basketball, is that right?
Yeah, I'm freelancing for the AP, so yeah, mostly I have a lot of like college basketball on the schedule, which it's been really fun. It's been different.
Mhm. And what is like the main difference with basketball? Because I know it's a lot more fast pace. I actually have never covered basketball. What I did with basketball, I used to do like game previews for like a basketball team, like that they put in their like program. But I had never actually covered a basketball game. I've covered like a few players. I've done profiles on basketball players, but never a game story. So take me through kind of the game story and like the pace of basketball.
Sure. So it's definitely a lot more fast paced, which is very different. And, obviously, goes without saying, but higher scoring. So it's not like, when you're covering a baseball game, like, you maybe, depending on the game, can talk about all or most of the, how a run scored or whatever.
Mhm.
Obviously can't do that in basketball. So it's kind of knowing what to like focus on can Colt. And so I guess a lot of like individual performance at like totals from the end of the night, or like if there was, one really just like electric play that you can kind of highlight, or like a game changing one. Um, so yeah, that part has been different. And then also just filing for the AP versus for MLB, like we just had to kind of different deadlines. So that's another thing that's been different. Kind of like I don't want to like actually say like scary, but like in the moment it's like the game ends. I'm like, oh God, I have to update all these numbers. Like, oh, how many points did she have? Um, so it's yeah, very different experience, but one that I'm enjoying, and I think it's probably making me more like versatile, which is always good in this, always changing media landscape.
That's right. And are you working with Janie McCauley on that one?
Yes,
On
I
with AV?
am.
She's awesome. Yeah,
She's the greatest.
she's really nice and like I had met her like two separate times. The first time like we met kind of in passing, and then the second time like I don't think she remembered that we met. So we met again. And then we've like followed each other and everything and she's just super nice and I could see her being very accommodating. So that's awesome that you're getting to work with her. I guess transitioning back to baseball here real quick, I do have a few baseball centered questions. We live in kind of like a baseball world right now where, young players are just taking over the game. And whether it's Soto or Cunha or when he's on the field, Tatis and Otani and Trout is still there and Judge. Do you have like a favorite young player that like is must see TV to you throughout the league? Like, they're pitching that night, I got to turn on the TV, or they have an at bat right now that, I got to turn on the TV. Is there anybody that kind of sticks out with that level of excitement for you?
Yeah, I think honestly for me it has to be Julio Rodriguez. Like, and that might come from, having covered him in person a couple of times. But yeah, I mean, he's just exciting, can do it all, obviously. And it's maybe the smartest contract structure that I've ever seen for a
That's
for a
right.
young
Yeah.
player to sign. But yeah, I can't wait to watch what he and the Mariners overall do next year to build on this season. Um, yeah, it's been really fun. Definitely deserved that rookie of the year. But there's just so much young talent in the game, and it's been so cool to like see some of that in person this season too.
Yeah, and you do a lot of coverage with the American League West, and I mean, that's a good division. That's going to be like a very underrated division because there's a lot of raw teams, right? Houston's
Yeah.
legitimately good, right? They win a championship, and um, the Angels, I feel like they're always like a pitcher or three away, and a few position players, they could hit a little bit. Um, the Rangers, Bruce Bochy's at the helm. Maybe if they get more pitching, they have a stacked middle infield. Um, and then you have the A's, and then I'm forgetting another team for some reason. I'm forgetting the
Um,
why am I
I think
forgetting?
no, I think you got him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mariners. Mariners are a nice young team too, and they break that playoff streak. I mean, it's going to be a tough uphill battle for the Oakland A's to kind of get back to relevancy. And I know they have the whole thing with the ballpark. We don't need to get into that. I could have you on like a different podcast to discuss all that because I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to the ballpark. But I mean, tell me a little bit about the A's. I mean, upcoming this season. I know you mentioned that's kind of the team that you have spent a lot of time watching in your youth. So, I mean, what is in it for the A's this offseason and I guess competing in the American League West coming up here?
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's hard to say with the A's because I feel like in the past, whenever they've gone on, rebuilds, the one like bright spot about them is that they typically don't last super long compared to a lot of other teams. So I guess you kind of wonder, like, if we compare this to the last real time that or their last rebuild. So they made the wild card game in 2014, 2015, 2016 were pretty bad seasons. 2017 was like also not great, but they were kind of on the rise again. And then 2018, they get back to the wild card game. Um, I don't know. I mean, the different thing this season is, of course, they lost 100 games for like the second time in Oakland history, I believe, which that's a big downer, obviously. But it's one of those things too where I think you can see a couple of good pieces in there. I think Mark Kotze, like, rough start to your managerial career, but there's a lot of respect for him around the team and around the media, and there's some prospects in the pipeline. It's like we were saying, will they actually deliver when they get to the majors or not? Who knows? But that's something to look out for, and probably something that A's fans should potentially be excited about next season. And then I could also see them as a good landing spot for, maybe some of those free agents who coming off not just like one down year, but a couple of down years, like kind of reclamation project types that they will likely then flip at the deadline. But I think that's kind of a possibility and something else that could maybe be a little exciting in Oakland next season, but we'll see.
Yeah, maybe Cody Bellinger lands in Oakland because I know he's a reclamation project, but many people out there think he's a productive major league hitter. But that's again another podcast. I've had too much of Cody Bellinger talk this week. And Sean Murphy got some MVP votes. So did you see that? Or he
I
got one.
did. I did. He got, was it one? I forget, but
He
I
got
was
like
like,
one 10th
why am I
place
seeing
vote or
his name
something.
here?
Yeah. But I mean, do you get to vote for that yet, or is that like not yet? Or do you like aspire to be like a Hall of Fame voter and like an awards voter with the BBWA? Because it feels like that's like a really cool goal to have.
Yeah, I think definitely one day. I'm not a BBWA member yet. So yeah, hopefully like next year. So we'll see if that happens. But yeah, I think I definitely, you know, want to be one of the people voting for these things. It's a huge honor. I think the Hall of Fame is one of those things that theoretically stresses me out because I know how people get about that.
Yeah,
But it would be really cool one day if I did qualify, to vote for that.
you're right. No, now thinking about it, that does not sound like a walk in the park. It seems totally terrifying, and just like the. I mean, kudos to the people that put their public ballots out there. Like I feel like I like that transparency, but also like, I mean, to watch them defend themselves like a lot of times hopelessly is not fun. So yeah, definitely maybe one day both of us will have a Hall of Fame vote and we'll like write our columns like how they write the columns like defending their vote and like why I did this. So that would be fun. And we could put Julio Rodriguez in the Hall of Fame. And that's way too far down the line. I'm thinking way too far. But are you actively looking for like maybe a spot to open up on MLB Beat this year? Is that something that you'd be open to?
Yeah, I would say that's kind of what I see as, the big like next step for me, So that's yeah, something that I'm actively looking for. And I think it's kind of early-ish in the off season where there aren't like a ton of, openings yet, but it's certainly something that I'm keeping on my radar because I don't know, you probably get a bit of this with the Giants, but just the kind of familiarity, like, or gaining familiarity, like with, the like one organization and not like ping ponging around all the time. As fun as all the ping ponging was, but it would be really cool to kind of be able to go deep into one team and you know, be like the source on it, be like
Mhm.
so knowledgeable about it. And yeah, though I've loved, what I've done this year, it's like I can't really be that for, 19 different teams. I can try my best,
Yeah.
but so many people are gonna know more.
It's gonna be like pretty soon it's gonna be like according to Sonja Chen of MLB.com. Like that's the goal right there. Um and yeah, like Diggy in the one team and I'm only there like a few times a week for home series, but I mean it's still like a pretty good glimpse into one team and if I'm not there I'm watching, but I mean, you have to have like five different heads to be in five different places to know like your upcoming assignment. So it's pretty awesome what you do. Sonja, I really appreciate you coming on. This was so much fun to chat, and I hope you have a very happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, and thank you so much again for having me. This was very fun, and hope you have a great Thanksgiving as well. Eat
And
tons
what's
of
on
turkey or whatever.
yeah, turkey that like lasts in the fridge and like it's fine like a day after, but then when, we start having leftovers on Saturday and Sunday, it's like the fridge starts smelling and it's
Hmm.
dry and like I hate the crock pot anyways and like I get blasted when I say that, but eh, oh gosh, turkey is like a one-time thing for one night, but we'll see. What's usually on the table for you on Thanksgiving? Because I know you said you're gonna have it later. Is there any like food that for Thanksgiving besides turkey that usually maybe you'll expect?
Yeah, my mom usually makes this it's like an onion casserole, which it's I'm not like a huge onion person. I don't think there's anyone out there actually who's like, oh, I love onions, they're my favorite food. But especially not me. I'm usually not that into onions, but this is really good. You can't really taste the onion that much. It's kind of like, I mean, it's not very healthy. It's like what, like onions and like cheese, and I mean, it's very good. I think it's something where like my grandmother found the recipe in a newspaper like years and years ago, and we just still have that little clipping or whatever. So
Yeah,
can't I'm
onions are
looking
my
forward to
favorite
that.
food. No, just kidding. They're not. But yeah, no, we're all coming. Like all of us, I'm gonna invite all my Twitter followers. We're all gonna come over to your house if that's cool, and
Oh,
we're gonna live.
definitely.
Yeah, we're gonna live it up on Thanksgiving and have some of that casserole. Um, You guys could, of course, follow Sonja on Twitter at Sonja M. Chen. Go check out her coverage on MLB.com, where she will hopefully have an MLB beat in the upcoming weeks and months, hopefully. And next year she'll be with an organization. We'll see. So again, thanks for coming on, and you guys can follow the podcast on Twitter and Instagram at RizzoCast, and then Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you find your podcast, YouTube, all that fun stuff. Go subscribe, follow, and have a very happy Thanksgiving. Again, it might have been, I think this episode is going to come out just a tad after the holiday, but have a happy Thanksgiving and see you next time.